Welcome to this Leading and Organizing in Action session on engaging networks. I'm Kim McCoy, Senior Program Manager at Stratus Health. Our session today will focus on understanding why and how to engage networks of leaders for collective impact, learning to map actors and implement a relational strategy to harness the resources of the team, and identifying and recruiting the leaders needed. Once we've introduced our motivating vision for change, we need to further engage people to actually commit to actively joining the coalition. We are still focusing on the people component of change. Coalitions must engage enough of the right people to generate collective impact and balance power and resources. Imbalance of power can lead to conflict, competition, opposition, and worse, a lack of commitment to work together. Another challenge is the mental model in which coalitions try to solve problems by bringing in outside resources or temporary assistance. This service orientation is unsustainable once outside interests change and resources disappear. To overcome these challenges, it is important to co-produce strategies with partners that recognize people as assets, build on people's existing skills and resources, build strong and supportive social networks, and promote trust by breaking down the divisions between service providers and service users. To do so, leaders can map actors, assets, and power, and develop a network building strategy that enables them to recruit collaborative leaders, align resources, and exercise influence. In community organizing, we mobilize people, not issues. Coalitions can engage leaders, constituencies, supporters, competition, and even opposition to align resources and influence choices. Visually mapping these actors also helps us map the values, interests, resources, and power that each group brings to bear to achieve the coalition's shared purpose. Your team can start mapping at any time, but it is important to come back together after an initial round of one-to-one meetings to revise your map of actors. Early one-to-one meetings will also help clarify who may be good prospects for leadership roles. Constituents are the people at the center of our work, the people whom we bring together. Constituent derives from the Latin for stand together. In a coalition, multiple constituencies work together to achieve the coalition's vision. They are the people we ask to identify their interests, contribute resources to act on those interests, and govern themselves. They are not clients or customers. They are partners. The core leadership team is derived from the constituencies. For instance, if our goal is to reduce readmission rates, coalition leaders may include quality improvement directors, case management directors, chief nursing officers, home health liaisons, beneficiaries, family members, and faith-based leaders. There will be some people whose interests are not directly or obviously affected by the coalition, but who may find it in their interest to support the coalition. For instance, philanthropic organizations may have interests aligned with the coalitions and agree to provide resources. These kinds of organizations are supporters. There will also be individuals and organizations that share our vision but disagree about how to achieve it. This is the competition. They may target the same constituency and seek the same sources of support. The competition may even face the same opposition. How can we turn our competition into our supporters, or even into a member of our coalition? Is there a basis for developing a relationship and an exchange of resources so we can make a relational commitment to one another? In pursuing our goals, we may find ourselves in conflict with the values and interests of other individuals or organizations. Some hospitals, for example, may be concerned that a successful coalition will affect its ability to generate income. Some insurers may oppose a coalition that cuts them out of a profit. How do we anticipate this opposition and design strategies to overcome it? A coalition's strategy is based on its assets, or the values, interests, and resources of its members. Values are mapped by looking at the choices that different stakeholders make. Consider what those choices tell us about their values as individuals, groups, or organizations. It is important to be clear about people's interests so we can be strategic about how to build relationships with them. We also need to be clear about the interests of the coalition. People mobilize resources on behalf of their values and interests. Look again at the map of actors and ask, what unique resources does each stakeholder possess, directly or indirectly? Mapping resources enables us to draw on and align those resources intentionally. A resource is anything we can use to achieve something else. Natural resources are those we came into the world with, our bodies, minds, spirits, and time. Acquired resources are distributed less widely, such as skills, money, equipment, and status. The fact that some resources are more scarce and less equally distributed influences whose interests are served. As you begin thinking about your coalition's actors and assets, it is helpful to work through these exercises as a group using Post-its. You can fill them out by organization and/or by individual, but ensure that each Post-it includes the resources, interests, and/or values that the organization or person brings to the table. These can then be moved around your map as needed. Power is the influence created by the relationship between interests and resources. A coalition's power to create change comes from its people. The unique role of organizing is to enable those who want change to produce the change by transforming and aligning resources they have into the resources they need. Power is mapped between stakeholders by asking 4 questions. What are our interests? Who holds the resources needed to address these interests? What are their interests? And what resources do we hold that we can commit to meet their interests? If the coalition's interest in an actor's resources and the actor's interest in the coalition's resources create an interest in joining forces to achieve a common purpose, collective power or power with is developed. Collective power is stronger in producing change than any one actor's power alone. If the coalition's interest in an actor's resources is greater than the actor's interest in the coalition's resources, then that actor has more power or power over the coalition. Include the type of power each potential coalition partner will bring to your coalition, power with or power over, as you're creating and arranging your Post-its. Drawing on the mapping work, the next step is to develop and implement a relational strategy that will engage networks to achieve the coalition's overarching goal. Relational strategies build relationships with individuals, networks, and organizations, and are developed to build collective leadership capacity and enlist commitments to the coalition's shared purpose. Over time, trust is built from the reliable and mutual exchanges between actors. Relational tactics are the means of carrying out the strategies. This might include one-to-one meetings, One-to-one meetings are good for identifying leaders and recruiting them to join coalition leadership. Regular one-to-ones are also critical for building and sustaining strong relationships in which both partners grow and learn together over time. House meetings build community and commitment around the leadership of an effort. At a house meeting, leaders recruit and engage their own social networks in building a broader and deeper community that is willing to commit to change together. House meetings occur in homes, places of worship, school gymnasiums, community centers, or other gathering places. Coalition meetings are not only important for decision-making, strategizing, and accountability, but also for maintaining strong, committed relationships among leaders. When there is confusion, lack of communication, or conflict, it may be because leaders are not spending enough time connecting with each other as people. Connecting with others allows us to understand each other's interests and find ways to learn together. Engagement events are used to communicate or launch a new idea, invite new members to the effort, recommit existing leaders to the vision, and/or strategize with stakeholders in real time. As with house and coalition meetings, engagement events take place anywhere that people can gather in one place. In planning our relational strategies, set targets to achieve over time. How many people will we build relationships with through one-to-one meetings, and by when? How many house meetings will we conduct? And how many people will we engage in each house meeting? What is our turnout target at an engagement event? How many people will we recruit to our first coalition meeting? And what numbers will demonstrate that we are building our capacity at coalition meetings over time? Setting targets and evaluating whether or not those targets were met allows coalitions to evaluate, learn, and adjust in real time. Network analysis is used to visualize growing collaboration and describe its interconnectivity. A network analysis can also reveal individual actors that are central to our effort. Network patterns illustrate a coalition's leadership structure and whether it is well distributed or dependent on one or very few central leaders. All people have various sets of relationships. Very often, the people that we turn to first are our strong ties, people like us whom we already know. They can be a source of strength, but they may also create a closed-in, limited circle of people and resources. In creating coalition networks, relationships with people from different organizations, professional backgrounds, and people who are socially and culturally more distant from us, or weak ties, need to be forged and fortified. Diverse membership brings different resources, skills, and networks, and adds power and innovation capacity to our coalition. As relationships are built through relational tactics, an early and important question is who to recruit to lead the coalition's work. There is a tendency to recruit senior leaders of organizations. Formal leaders of organizations may bring authority, resources, and prestige, but they may not have the time or energy to devote to the coalition, or may not be skilled at exercising the collaborative leadership needed to advance a coalition toward its goals. In other words, an organization's or community's formal leaders are not always our best coalition leaders. When recruiting people for interdependent coalition leadership, we look for certain characteristics. Possession of resources, relationships, the ability to see the whole, moral authority, and time are critical resources. Look for people with an understanding of the problem you are trying to solve, who are widely respected in their communities or among coworkers, and who have the time to commit to the real work that will be required. Moral imperative. Look for people who say to themselves, someone has to do something, and if I don't do it, who will? Passion and commitment are central to motivating others and providing effective leadership in the face of uncertainty. Strong relational skills. Identify good listeners and communicators who relate to a wide variety of people. Identify individuals who can bring others along. Other individuals or organizations or informal networks because of their deep networks of relationships in a community. Look for those who enable others to achieve outcomes through coaching and encouragement. Positive outlook toward tackling challenges. Identify people who have the tenacity to try another approach when something doesn't work the first time. Learning orientation and willingness to take risks. Look for those who learn from others and work outside their comfort zone. Look for people who are comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty, and those who even thrive on emergent processes and continuous improvement. The ability to compromise is critical to multi-stakeholder success. Watch out for those who listen to respond instead of to understand, and those who are inflexible or cannot accept constraints. Willingness to share leadership with others. Probe to see if they have shared leadership responsibilities before. Faith leaders, physicians, and other traditional authority figures often lack experience in sharing leadership and may rely on top-down models to get things done, whereas those who have been part of volunteer organizations often have valuable experience in sharing responsibility. Mobilization depends on shared leadership and responsibility and must be modeled within the coalition. History of collaboration and accountability. Note whether people have been part of other group efforts or ask for examples of when they followed through on commitments.